But let's see how she does full throttle. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over this 2021 Ford Bronco Big Bend with a lift kit and some tires and wheels and fender flare delete, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But anyways, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Ford Lincoln here in Provo for giving me some time with this Bronco. This is actually one of their demo Broncos, so if you want to drive a lifted Bronco, come and visit the Larry Miller Ford Lincoln here in Provo, and then after you drive it, then you can go and order yours, or if you already have one on order, then they can help you out with the lift kit and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, let's get into the video. Now, I've already reviewed a bunch of Broncos, so I'm not going to do a normal walk around on this. Most of this video is actually going to be driving because I want to see how this drives in a couple different circumstances. But anyways, let's go over the modifications. So one thing that isn't on this Bronco that will be on it in the future potentially is they are looking at doing aftermarket bumpers in the front and the rear, but this one still has the stock ones. And if you guys are wondering, this one has the 2.3, not the 2.7. But anyways, let's actually pop here to the side so you guys can see what's happening. So we do have 35s on this, and you can see that looks pretty crazy with the 35s. You've got the fuel wheels, which I really like the look of these, especially compared to what you get in the stock ones. The stock wheels don't look bad by any means. The stock wheels look really good, but this just has a whole nother level of aggression, as you can see, again, especially just like with how it looks and how it's like blacked out, and it just makes the tires look even bigger. Just absolutely crazy. Now, it's either a 4 or 5 inch lift. My notes are a little bit jumbled up on this. Sorry about that. But anyways, it does have a lift. It's pretty big, you guys can see. I mean, there's quite a bit of space here. More space than what you get in a Sasquatch Bronco, for example. You can see that whole setup. And then also, again, the fender flare delete. And then that's just stock from the factory with the protection. You can see everything here on the back as well with the kit. But yeah, I mean, it looks really good, like stance-wise. I'm not sure how to feel about the fender flare delete, but it also kind of looks like what people have when they do the old school Broncos and they lift them like crazy. Like, this is pretty much what it looks like. But yeah, and then also the spare on the back matches. So we don't have like a dinky little spare, which I have seen on some Broncos where they'll do like lifts like this and big tires, and then they'll just do the same spare as stock, and it looks hilarious. But yeah, you guys can see, I think it looks really good. And this kind of reminds me more of like an old school Bronco compared to, you know, like a Sasquatch package, for example. But anyways, let's take it out and see how it drives and see if this lift is really worth it. So I just realized before I took it out and drove it that I forgot to show you guys the view from underneath here, because they have done some strengthening with some stuff, so you guys can kind of see that it's not just lifted. There's the front view, and then we'll pop over the back. Sorry about forgetting about that. Sometimes I do a good job, guys, sometimes I don't. Yeah, you guys can see all the strengthening and everything they've added. So it's not just like a crappy lift that's been adding, it's some legit stuff. There we go. Now we'll take it out and drive it. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. So there's your visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors, and then throughout the rest of the rear. And well, let's set off. We are going to do a longer drive with this lifted Bronco because I really want to see if this is worth it. I've had a bunch of people ask me, hey, should I lift my Bronco or should I have gotten a Sasquatch? And hopefully I will be able to have an answer for you guys at the end of today's video. And also, if the 2.3's got enough pep to move a lift. That 2.3 is so good. Such an underrated engine, especially for this segment. I mean, when you're comparing this to a V6 Wrangler or a 2.0 Wrangler, this thing just annihilates it because you actually have torque and you can actually get up and move, versus with the Wranglers where it's like you just don't go anywhere. But let's see how she does full throttle. Definitely slower than stock, definitely slower. Like there's a perceivable difference. And also I love the blow off. you can hear the blow off. That's so good. That's another thing that's cool about the 2.3. You've got some nice noises. But aside from that, quite a bit of tire noise. Now this is a soft top, so there's gonna be more noise in this than what you get with the hard top. Something I'm gonna mention though, because I have a soft top Wrangler this week from Jeep, is the fact that the Bronco is not as loud as the Wrangler with the soft top. Like this is quieter interior wise than what you get with the Wrangler. It's not a huge difference. Like, the only reason I know is because I'm driving both of them this week. But if you didn't drive them back to back, you wouldn't know. But I guess that's another thing. Aside from that, wow, that is crazy. Is that, oh my gosh. The stuff you see here in Utah is pretty awesome with the lifts. Well, awesome. But anyways, going over bumps doesn't upset it. Ride quality is actually really good. I'm surprised. Sometimes when you lift vehicles, it just completely destroys the ride quality. It doesn't drive well. Look at that. What the heck, Provo? The negative offset on that Grand Cherokee. Oh my goodness. This video is half lifted Bronco, half car spotting. Gotta love Utah, guys. Got to love Utah. But also, turning radius, not horrible. And even though we have a massive negative offset, it doesn't feel cumbersome to drive. It's not like I'm worried about hitting into things on the side or anything like that. It feels pretty normal, so that is another positive. I will say, you're, you know, feeling on the road, you're like just, I guess the road presence of this is crazy because it's a Bronco right now. It's also just massive, but you definitely have that like king of the road feel for sure. You just feel like you are bigger than everything and you're like, get out of my way, I will run you over. That is kind of what this gives you, which is kind of interesting. We're gonna get another acceleration here. Hooks up nicely, so that's another huge positive. Another characteristic of Provo, pulling out at the last second so that you get in people's way, and not using your turn signal either. Yeah, you know what? I am not sad that I do not live down here. But continuing on talking about the lift here on the Bronco, the one thing that I do want to mention is you do have to, I mean, this, I already said it's a little bit slower, but you do have to be on the throttle quite a bit more. Like, this thing slows down pretty quickly. I mean, that's kind of a characteristic of boxy shaped vehicles. Trucks do it too, right? Even when you're going downhill, they still seem to like slow down, whereas a car will speed up just because of aerodynamics. But this, like, really, you can feel it just really slowing down. And imagine, again, because of the aerodynamics, because of the tires as well. Something also to mention, the steering is straight, which sometimes, again, when you lift a vehicle, obviously that's not supposed to happen, but you know what? It happens, and the fact that this is still straight is great. I think the Big Bend has a sport mode. Let's see if that changes things up. Yep, got our sport mode right there, and once this light goes green, we'll be able to change that up as well and see if that helps out with the acceleration at all. Starting to move and going uphill. Yeah, it's really not slow though. I mean, again, it's slower than stock, but it still has enough get up and go that it's not scary. Because again, sometimes when you lift vehicles, especially in this segment at Jeep, they're so brutally slow that you feel like you're in danger when you pull out. You're like, I'm in danger every single time you pull into the road because you're worried you're not gonna be able to get up to speed in time. But being on this higher speed road, yeah, again, it's pretty loud. Definitely louder than the hardtop. I just took delivery of a first edition yesterday, and so I drove that around the block a couple times, and yeah, the hardtop is so much quieter. So if you're willing to wait for a hardtop Bronco, I definitely recommend it. It looks better, but there's a huge difference in the sound insulation. Like, it is not and day. But again, I know I'm repeating myself, this isn't as loud as the Wrangler. Handling is also pretty good. It's not destroyed with this lift. The body roll doesn't feel horrible either. That's something that I'm also impressed with, is I expected this to have just atrocious body roll because, well, it's so high off the ground. I mean, Broncos are higher already. But on top of that, when you add another, what is it, 4 or 5 inches, makes things kind of crazy. But again, it does a good job with managing all of it. Got to be super. Look at this stuff, the maneuvers people do down here in Provo. Oh my gosh. Okay, just getting my heart rate up. This next section here is going to be a big sweeper in a second, and that'll again show us kind of like the stability and the handling. Yeah, I mean, you do have to punch it a little bit, but it's got so much torque that I'm not like full throttle. I'm like probably 60 to 75% into the throttle, and it just again, it moves. And yeah, there's so much tire noise. That's another benefit to the Sasquatch. The Sasquatches don't have nearly as much tire noise, and that's soft top and hard top, because I drove both down in Texas. I drove a Wild Track soft top, and then, no, actually, both of them are, I think both of them are soft tops in Texas. I can't remember now. I'm trying to get the memory back. Yeah, both of them are soft tops. So I've driven Sasquatches in a 2-door and a 4-door with the soft top, and I've driven the hard tops, and so, yeah, again, there's a perceivable difference. So moving up again, finally gonna go on the sweeper. I've hit like every possible red light in today's review. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I don't. But let's see what the high-speed stability is like. Turn-in's great. Yeah, you can feel a little bit of body roll, a little bit more than stock. It's not bad though. It's not bad at all. Yeah, so the lift really doesn't mess anything up with the Bronco. It still drives great. It's just noisier. So yeah, let's get into signing things up with this lifted Bronco. So it looks great. I still prefer the look of the Sasquatch package over this. This does look crazy and aggressive, but that's just, I'm not really into like the whole negative offset trends and huge lifts. I kind of like practicality more. And when I look at this, I go, that looks great, but the Sasquatch looks a little bit nicer in my opinion. And also, like, I'm such a practical person, and I'm like, okay, if I took this thing off-road, it would do good, but it wouldn't do as good as the Sasquatch, because again, it doesn't have all of the equipment that the Sasquatch has, doesn't have those position sensitive shocks from Bilstein. So yeah, just, yeah, not the same. But aside from that, driving wise, you guys kind of heard all of my thoughts on it. So I guess I got to give this lifted Bronco a rating. And here's my rating. On road, this thing's great. It's noisy, but it looks cool. I don't know what that beeping was about. That was weird. Anyways, it's noisy, but it looks great. And so if you want, you know, more road presence, this will definitely do that for you. But if you're looking to do an off-road build with just the lift, obviously that's, the Sasquatch package is going to be the best route to go, unless you like do something else with the shocks on this. This just isn't going to be as good as the Sasquatch, and also it doesn't have all of this stuff. It doesn't have the, you know, stabilizer bar disconnect. It doesn't have the front and rear lockers. So again, this is a great pavement princess that could do some off-road trails. But if you want the real off-road Bronco, Sasquatch, so I guess here's how the ratings go. Sasquatch is a 10 out of 10. Regular Bronco without a lift is like 7 out of 10. And this is like right in between, like 8.5 out of 10. So that's kind of how I feel about the whole lift situation. Hopefully that helped you guys out with deciding if you're going to lift your Bronco or not. And I guess we will close things off with me showing the Sasquatch, well, my first edition that is for sale. I got to mention this in like every video if you want to buy it. It's a lot of money, but I don't know. That does it for me. This looks cool, but that looks cooler. Now that's gonna sum things up for a video on this lifted Ford Bronco Big Bend. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Ford Lincoln here in Provo. I'm gonna include a link to their inventory in the description down below. I'll see you guys.